Welcome to Youth Ministry Unscripted, where we talk real, honest, and raw about gospel-centered youth ministry. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm Josh Hussung, and I'm joined with Danny and Isaiah. Say hi, guys.
Praise the Lord. How y'all doing?
Hey, hello, everyone.
Yeah, and we're so glad to be back with you again. And, when you're listening to this, it's probably July, and you are well into the throes of summer. And, I don't know about you guys, but things change pretty significantly in the summer months. First thing is, like, we're in three different kind of locations, ministry-wise, or especially us and Danny. Me and Isaiah are both in Tennessee, but Danny, what's the school calendar like? Like, when do kids get out of school where you are, and when do they start back in school? Like, when does the summer break happen?
Yeah, the summer break happens here usually early to mid-June. I know down in the South, sometimes some of my friends in like Atlanta, it happens in like early May. But here and here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, it's more like early to mid-June.
Okay, and when do they start back school?
They start usually the week before Labor Day or after the day after Labor Day.
Okay, yeah, that is a little bit different than ours. Like in Tennessee, it's usually like third week of May probably is when we're getting done, but then they're starting back like the beginning of August.
Yeah.
Probably pretty similar amount of time, but just offset a little bit. One of my mentees in the mentor program is in like Northern California, and their schedule is quite a bit different than ours. So I'm talking about summer stuff, and they haven't gotten there yet, or that kind of thing. Yeah. But the main thing I did want to talk about is just the change that happens in youth ministry. What does it look like? How does the rhythm of your student ministry change in the summer months versus the rest of the year? Like, what's that look like for you guys?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that the rhythm significantly changed. When you think about like the school year and like the consistent rhythm of like the Wednesday nights, the Sunday mornings, you got your fall retreat, your winter retreat. Whereas in the summer, it's not as consistent of meetings that we have.
Right.
And so that shifts, that makes a significant shift in the way we do ministry over the summer.
Yep. And I always had this term called summer survival schedule, just for as a youth pastor, because summer, like, kids are in and out, volunteers are in and out. We also, our youth group did a lot of summer mission trips.
Yep.
And so that kind of had kids and volunteers in and out. And so everything, like Isaiah said, the rhythms were all thrown off whack, and who came and fill-ins and people combining groups and small groups on Wednesday. So it was kind of like surviving every week, but in a organized but chaotic way.
Yeah. That's kind of the same for us. Like, the only thing like that doesn't really change at our church in the summer months is Sunday school is still there. Yeah. Now, because people are in and out, the attendance is changed a good bit during the summer, but it's still consistent. But like our midweek stuff, we change and we go to the park. So we play ultimate frisbee and stuff. So it's not substantive. It's a little more just kind of fellowship and hanging out. Yeah. Our Sunday night stuff just stops. And then we hit like the summer trip and things like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it makes a big difference. And, and how would you describe workload? Like, how does your workload change in the midst of that time? Would you say it's more laid back, or would you say it's more geared up? What would you say?
I would say mine is more laid back. Summers, it was a bit tricky in the context where I was, because we tried like the consistent, Sunday mornings. But what we found is, because people are all over the place, is if you don't have something for all generations, adults, children, it's probably not going to be effective. We tried the Wednesday night stuff, and so, yeah, it was just a very tricky time. But for the summers in particular, for us, it was sort of a build up to, we would have like a big trip that we would take. Maybe it's a weekend, maybe it's a little longer than a weekend.
Yep.
But that would be sort of like the focal point. And then we would have we would have like fun, like fellowship events that we would do also during the summer. So it was very like more, I guess, entertainment,
Uh-huh.
where we foster a lot of community. But that trip, we did incorporate a study within whatever thing that we have for that particular trip. So
Isaiah's a fun guy, so it's he says it's less work, but I'm sure he's doing just as much work. Because in that way, for me, like, yeah, I don't know if it was more or less, but it was definitely different. Like Isaiah said, like some more trips and fun stuff on Wednesdays. Like, you don't have to prepare like your small group material, and you do like picnics or like games outside and things like that. And I always did find, since kids were off from school, um, more opportunity to do like visits with kids and stuff like that. And so it was just, the rhythm was different. Um, yeah, and I think, yeah, Isaiah, thinking about it, there was some like a little bit less work, but also it was just different. So
now I would say it still was a lot of work, but it
yeah,
was just more laid back.
yeah,
It wasn't as rhythmic. It wasn't as like full in the sense that every week I'm preparing a lesson
yeah,
or something like that. So, but it was still full. But I think, Danny, to your point, it did, in particular, the summer did provide more opportunities or unique opportunities to connect relationally with young people. Whereas as you foster that community and you do those fun events, it provides opportunities to connect one-on-one with those young people that shows up to those events and those
Yeah.
meetings. And so I used to try to be intentional about spending that time, especially like when we do our longer extended trip during the summer, where I try to find a point within that trip to really connect with each one of the young people.
mhm,
So I do my best in being intentional about that.
yeah,
Yeah, and I do want to come back to the relational connection part in a few minutes as well, because I think that is an important piece to think through for the summer. I think for me, the theme that I'm hearing from you guys, and I think it's the same with me, is not necessarily less work, but just different work.
yeah,
And like I don't have to teach 2 or 3 times a week, so that's nice. That
yeah,
makes a difference. But for me, like I've got this summer. I've got two big events happening. I'm taking like 30 to Romania on a mission trip,
yeah,
and then we do our own youth camp, which we used to just go to like Mission Fuge, like a kind of plug and play, just in a box camp where you just show up. But we can't really do that now, and so both of those things just require a lot of planning. So I'm not preparing to teach, but I'm doing training meetings, and I'm doing sending emails, and I'm getting schedules together. So just a lot of that kind of little bit every day working on these things, on top of trying to juggle some other things. So it's definitely different, um, kind of rhythm, work load, that kind of thing. So let's pick up, Isaiah. You talk about connecting relationally with students. How do you leverage the summer, both of you guys? How do you leverage the summer in order to maybe zero in a little bit more? Because I know for me, in the school year, you got kids in extracurricular activities. You're trying to maybe get home and be with your family. So sometimes like meeting with a student after school is a trickier thing. But in the summer, students are at least a little more available in the daytime. So how do you leverage that change in schedule in order to connect more relationally? Were you thinking strategically about that? What does that look like for you guys?
yeah. I think about, so sorry, Isaiah, but
No, no.
I think about that idea you talked about, Josh, of availability.
Mm-hmm.
Just that students are there's less pressure because they're not necessarily in school, and their schedules are a little different. So I am trying to use that availability and kind of less pressure time to build up relationships, so I can encourage them in the fall to maybe come out to Wednesday night, or join the student leadership team, or be more regular at youth groups. So it's a good opportunity in the summer where the students are more free to breathe and relax to develop a relationship. So maybe you can springboard into something in the fall. So that's what I'm kind of thinking in the summertime.
Okay.
Yeah, and to you all's point, that availability is huge. Now, students are typically constantly busy. But summers there, it seems that they're not as busy, but you still have things. You still, some have summer football practice and,
Yep.
different things like that. But being able to meet for like a breakfast at like a Chick-fil-A with a young person, I think is huge compared to what you have to do and what you have to navigate during the school year. Yeah, that
Mm.
availability to be able to meet during the day, this is a game changer.
One of the most alarming trends we're seeing in teenagers today is the prevalence of anxiety. If one of your children or a teenager you know is struggling with anxiety, we are thrilled to share a resource to help. Rooted's 2023 book release with PNR Publishing, Anxiety: Finding a Better Story. It's a 31-day devotional for teenagers written by mental health counselor and friend of Rooted, Liz Edrington. As a teenager, Liz felt overwhelmed by anxiety. Now that she's a mental health counselor, she wants to pass on what she's learned. Just understanding what anxiety is makes a big difference. But what makes an even bigger difference is understanding what God has to say about it. With daily scripture readings, breathing exercises, and additional mental health resources, this little book offers comfort and help for teenagers in the midst of their anxiety. We invite them to see how their anxiety fits into God's big story and to learn how Jesus can bring peace.
One of the things I do is at the end of the school year, I will make an announcement to students and say, hey, summer's coming. Everybody's going to have a little more free time. I would love to meet with anybody who would want to, get to know you a little better, grab a cup of coffee or get breakfast, like you said. And I feel a little like, I don't know, I feel weird putting this out there, but I use one of those scheduling links, like a Doodle or a Calendly or something. And we have a little, website thing for our youth group. And there's a button on it that's just like Coffee with Josh. And it just connects to my calendar. And I block out times that I could be available for that. And then kids can just sign up and they will do that. And then, of course, I think I kind of think of it like I want to be available to the students that want to meet that wouldn't necessarily be on my radar. But then I also want to zero in on students who maybe they're students that are good leaders that you want to invest in discipleship wise. Maybe there are students that aren't believers yet and you want to have an evangelistic conversation with them. Maybe there's a student that is struggling, like has some hardships in their life, and you want to help them. So there might be people that you're strategically reaching directly out to, but then I think ways that you can maintain a sense of availability to them is helpful. And something like that's just like, hey, just sign up. That's what I'm here for. I don't know about you guys, but like I have been working full-time youth ministry at this church for 16 years, and I still have students that like don't believe that I actually that this is my full-time job. And so they sort of assume that I'm a volunteer and that I'm just like the lead volunteer. So they maybe sometimes don't even know that I'm as available to them as I am. So I think just being clearly available can be a help. And another thing that I've noticed is like some students that might be a little, I don't know, we're all, we're on the dad and up side of things here, the three of us, right? So a 20-something youth pastor might be able to pull off the cool older brother or younger uncle or, kind of thing. Some students might be a little intimidated by trying to get a meeting. But I also make it clear, like, if you feel weird about that, but you want to meet, bring a friend and we'll meet the three of us or something like that. And I've had students take me up on that as well. In fact, I'm having coffee with two students tomorrow who I think might feel weird trying to get coffee with me just individually, but they're excited to go together. And I'm sure we'll have a great time. So,
And you know what I found that works in the summer too, and it's a little bit old school because it used to be like Barnes and Nobles and places was more like places to hang. But I would tell students, hey, I'm going to be hanging out at Starbucks from 1 to 3, or I'm going to be hanging out at Barnes and Nobles from 3 to 5 on this day.
Yep.
So if you want to come by, that's a little bit more old school. Barnes and Nobles. People listening might not even know what that is, but I'll be a Krispy Kreme or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's huge. The theme of like making yourself available, communicating, and even in some cases over communicating your availability to young people because they may not know. And my mentor would often say, your best ability is your availability. And so just making yourself available to young people, I think goes a long way. And I think it means a lot to those young people as well.
Yep. Actually, Danny, just so you know, don't feel too out of touch. I had a student that asked to meet me at the cafe at Barnes and Noble, in the last couple of weeks. So that is still a thing. But I will say, I have made that availability thing in the school year. Like Wednesdays, I don't go home between morning and our midweek. And so in the after school hours, sometimes I'll spend a couple of hours at a coffee shop not far from our church. And I always tell students, hey, every Wednesday I'm here from 3 to 5 or whatever. And I wouldn't say that I have tons of students show up during that time, but I will have a good number of students say, hey, do you still do that coffee hours thing? And it won't wind up being the time that I normally do it, but the idea in their mind that I have times of availability cues them to ask me about that. And then I can set up a different time with them. So it's the communication of availability is almost just as important as the doing of the coffee hours because it tells them you're there. And maybe makes it possible for them to do that otherwise. So I think you have more time to do that in the summer. So if you had a set day, or if you had a calendar, that communicating that availability might help them. They might not know how available you are to them unless you say it clearly.
One more thing on that is if you're a younger youth worker, I know, Josh, you said that Isaiah and Josh and me were on the other side of this, but if you have kids like elementary school or something, like when I was younger and my kids were younger, I would take them to Barnes and Nobles, elementary age, and let them run around in the kids section. And then my youth group would know I'm there hanging out. And so I could do two things, kill two birds with one stone, which is have a place for my kids to hang out and look at books and have fun. And it'd be like free babysitting for me. And at the same time, meet with students. And so as a younger youth worker, it was just a way to kind of do two things at once, so, if you're a youth worker with younger kids, just to let you know, hey, you can get some free babysitting.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm sure the Barnes & Noble employees really appreciated that too. Okay, well, that's awesome. It gives us a good chance in the summer to maybe have a greater degree of availability. Let's talk for a moment. We were talking at the beginning about the change in programming and schedule, and the rhythm is just different. I do want to talk for a moment, let's zero in on the challenges. What would you say the primary challenges are in this change in rhythm during the summer?
Well, like I was saying earlier, because everybody's schedule's a little bit in flux, especially my volunteers. You never know when they're going to be at church, when they're going to be on vacation. So just planning for some of their different schedules. And just probably 6-7 years ago, I started thinking teachers at school have summer off. And so I know some of you do this, and Josh and Isaiah, I know you kind of hinted at this, but I give my volunteers all of August off from small groups, and we take the whole month off from having them do small groups. And I think they, as I got older, I think they really appreciated having a good month to 6 weeks off from youth group programming, and gave them a chance to refresh and recharge and get ready for the new year. Maybe I was too much of a taskmaster in the younger years, but I realized 6-7 years ago when I started doing that, they really, really appreciated it, and they kind of planned their summer around it too.
Hi, My name is Jennifer Kwame, and I have been serving in youth ministry at Centennial Church in Forest Lake, Minnesota for more than 20 years. I'm also the author of More to the Story, Deep Answers to Real Questions on Attraction, Identity, and Relationships. And I've had the honor to write Rooted's new curriculum on biblical sexuality. It's a 9-week short study that goes through key passages in Scripture about the topic of human sexuality. And our hope and prayer with it is that it would help students to see why their sexuality matters so much and how they can honor God with their bodies and their relationships. We also hope and pray that it is a tool for you as you navigate the tough questions that our students are asking with gospel truth.
I think a large part of that would depend on, just your context. And some of us may have 200 kids in our youth group. Others may have 40 or 20.
Right.
And I know for us, having sort of a smaller group where when you're trying to incorporate something more consistent over the summer, when young people are not showing up, it's felt more in a sense. And so I think that's part of the challenge, is having a good core group of young people that can consistently show up, because as we mentioned, they're vacationing, they're doing all kind of stuff over the summer. And so that is what made it challenging to have a consistent, 6-week Bible study on, Philippians or, something like that. And so I think that's part of the challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, in the particular context that I served in, if we didn't have something offered for adults, children, and youth, then the effectiveness was very low, because those adults are bringing the youth, and a lot of times those adults have both youth and children, and so it was just very tricky for us in our context, and that was a more smaller group context. So.
Yeah, I think there's that context piece is really important, because you might be at a church where think like socioeconomic differences. Like if you're at like the first church I was at was a much more kind of blue collar situation. It was out in the country. There were a lot of kids in our youth group whose family couldn't really afford to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And so that meant that there was really a more consistent presence of students in town. So like doing a Bible study for 4 to 6 weeks might be something that we could have done and actually had a generally consistent population of students at that Bible study. And they're not going on vacation, so they're kind of bored. They're looking for stuff to do. Whereas like I would say in my current church, like it would be pretty unusual for me to have any students who are in town the entire summer where you could do something. And so pretty early on, I would say within the first 3 or 4 years, I kind of freed myself of the need to have a consistent summer Bible study.
Yeah.
And if I did something, it was going to be a little more like a student could drop into any of them and not have to be at the other ones in order to have everything down. If that makes sense. Like everything is like a one-off lesson that doesn't build on the other ones, or not in a way that they couldn't catch up to. And I think that's a kind of an important piece there, is like, summer is a typically inconsistent time, and it doesn't mean that you're a failure if you can't keep kids. The kids aren't going to like cancel their family vacation to come to your Bible study. That they don't have control over that. So you're not a failure. And it doesn't mean that your kids are like spiritually immature because their family's going on vacation during the summer. And so you just kind of have to pick what you're going to do and maximize on that. And for us, it's kind of, we tend to are drawn towards the more fellowship related things. Sunday school is always there. Students can come into that. And we're trying to have these sort of discipleship times with students. I think all that is helpful. But the biggest challenge, I think, is true. It is consistency. They're just, everybody's in and out. So that's important.
That's a good encouragement, because I think not only as it relates to the young people, but I think even us ourselves, in recognizing the things that we would like to do with our families. Maybe we want to take vacations, or, just kind of spend some time to kind of relax and debrief and just enjoy the summer as well. So just giving ourselves permission to do that as well. So
yeah, that's one of the things I love, family wise, about The summer is like, my kids are public school kids. So in the summertime, I could actually, hang out at the house for a little longer in the morning. Maybe we have breakfast together sometimes. Maybe we have a little devotional family worship time. Full disclosure, that is yet to have happened this summer. It's been nuts. All right, it's like VBS started like the first week. But that possibility is there, and that's really, I think, a help. And you want to be able to invest in that, even if it changes your rhythm in a way. Okay, we've been talking about challenges. Let's do something fun. What like summer traditions do you have that are important to the life of your youth group? Like, is there anything unique that you do that your students always look forward to, that you do somewhat consistently? Let's just talk about the things that your students like to do in the summer in your youth group.
I mentioned this earlier about the big trip that we take over the summer. And I think though the trip changes from summer to summer, students really enjoyed and looked forward to that time because they knew, are we going somewhere? We about to spend the night somewhere. We might be in a church gym. You know what I mean? Like, spending the night at a church gym or something like that. But like, students really look forward to that time that they get to spend away in with their peers every summer. So
yeah. I like the way Isaiah talked about context and just our context. We did a lot of summer mission trips and different locations. Couple were in the United States. One was a urban mission trip, only 30 minutes away in Philadelphia. One was like a home building trip, and then one or two were overseas. And I think each one had a uniqueness about them, but they kind of built anticipation for like if you were younger and you went on a home building trip when you were in middle school, but you look forward to going overseas when you're older because we have an age requirement. Or if you experienced a trip that was in the rural area and you next year wanted to do something in the urban area. So these trips were really a kind of a rite of passage for kids to go to different places, and they really look forward to it in the summer. Now, not everybody can go, and not everybody can afford to go to an overseas trip. So we had different varieties also. So it was, in a big youth group, you could kind of do that. And so it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, mine is similar to you guys. The big thing I would say that defines our summer for our students that's very consistent is we do ultimate frisbee at the park every Wednesday night in June. They won't let us use the park in July because they want the field to rest because of the heat, I guess. But man, kids show up for that. They love it. The younger kids love getting to play ultimate with the older kids. Families come out to the park. It's a public park, so families will come out and let their younger children play on the playground, and they'll visit. And so we're not technically offering something for the whole family, but we kind of are. And then a lot of our students, especially the high school ones, will go to Sonic after it's over. So it'll go 6 to 8, and then everybody goes to Sonic, and they'll get food or get ice cream. And it's just a really sweet time. We really love that.
I remember we joined you a couple times.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. If you're listening, me and Isaiah were at churches. I'm still at Grace, but Isaiah was at a church just up the road, just like a mile or two away, and we've done a lot of stuff together, and that was always really sweet to get to do that. Yeah.
And Josh, could you speak a little bit to? I know this is kind of the fun question, but like building up that kind of tradition, it doesn't just happen like one year, but you kind of took a little time to do it yearly, and then it became like a yearly thing.
Yeah, I think for me, anything that's tradition is almost like you just try things, and if they go well, then you do it again. We've talked about retreats, for example. Like we do this thing called the Quiet Hour, and I just did that randomly because I was like, I don't have anything to do this time. Let's have them do a long devotional time. That seems like a good idea. And they came away loving that, and we've been doing that for like 4 or 5 years now. And so, I think you just you try things. and you see what really clicks with them. And I think some of that would be maybe just debrief things with students. Like, what did you like about this summer? And the things that they really hang on to, as long as there's, no compelling reason not to continue to do something, make that your tradition. You can do that in trips too. Like with summer camps, we have some things that we do every year in our retreats and our summer camps that are always look forward to. I think that's all really good. Okay, we're almost out of time, but sorry, go ahead, Danny.
Oh, and same with Isaiah and your trip you do every summer too.
Yep. Yeah.
It's kind of like become a tradition. And
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, summer is also vacation time. So just fun random question about you, rapid fire, because we're almost out of time. But are you beach people or mountains people? If you had to choose between the two for a family vacation, which would you choose? And real quick explanation as to why. Neither one. These guys don't like vacation, apparently.
We're like such city people. We like to go to big cities and visit museums and restaurants and aquariums. And so I'm not a beach person. I'm not a mountain person. I'm not a hiking person. We like to go to, I live in Philly, so drive to Chicago, deep Washington, D.C., Boston. And we like to go visit big cities and be like tourists in big cities.
Man, I love them both. But if I had to choose one, I love the sound of water and waves. And so I think I would choose, it's very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
And so I think I would choose beach.
I'm the same, man. Give me a book at the beach. I could sit there all day, eat a sandwich out of the cooler, stay till the sun goes down, go to bed, get up and do it again for a week and not be a problem.
Yeah.
And my kids are now at the age where I don't have to constantly be lifeguarding, which that's a game changer for that kind of stuff.
But my kids like to just lay back and just build sandcastles. They don't even really play in the water for real.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's the summer is a unique time. Leverage that time. Use it for kingdom work. And we would just want to encourage you listening today. The gospel is God's power for salvation, and you are handing that off to students. So do that again this summer. Thank you so much for joining us at Youth Ministry Unscripted, where we talk real, honest, and raw about gospel-centered youth ministry. And we will see you next time.